What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Friday Jam session. If you're watching this on the Coffee Talk, welcome. If you are listening to this on the podcast, welcome as well. But here's the deal. Today, we are going to be doing our Friday Jam session, and the topic or the question is a good one, and it's something I wasn't sure I believed in before, but now I kind of think I'm changing my tune. And that's because, well, I'll share with you why I changed my mind. But the question is, can broad niches work and still make money? Can we go broader than just getting really, really niche? And I've got some examples I want to share with you, but the short answer is simply, yeah, it can. It can work. And there's actually an example that I stumbled on, and I'll actually share an example with you and some sub niches and how you can go broader, but then narrow it down and all that stuff. But this all happened as we were doing our newest, actually our very first Niche Properties Insider. It's volume 1, we're calling it, because we're going to do one of these every single month inside of our Brand Creators Academy. And we did our first ever one. And the first one that we did is basically a niche that's very, very broad and very scattered and not perfect. And the content was just okay, but it was getting over 35,000 visits per month, making about $1,500, actually a little bit more each and every month. And there was a lot of things that were, brought to my attention that, wow, I guess you could go broad if you want to. But the one thing that was very interesting was that even though it wasn't really super targeted, it still was in the general theme of a niche. And within that, you're able to then go and sample or go and test a lot more types of content and then look back and go, oh, maybe we should drill into this niche a little bit deeper. And like I said, I'll give you some examples here so it makes more sense. But that's what I wanted to kind of jam on here, or today on this Friday Jam session. Now, if you are listening and you're like, Scott, what is this niche properties thing, or what is this niche properties insider, this new thing that you're talking about? Well, I did an episode kind of revealing it and talking about it. But what we're basically doing is we are finding a niche property that is being sold or that has sold. And then what we're doing is we're tearing it down in a sense to where we can dissect all of the different aspects of this niche property. What made it work? And then from there, what can we learn from it? And then what we do is we break it down as far as what we would do if we were to either purchase the site or if we were building the site from scratch and then we built it to this level, what would we do from here moving on over the next 90 days? And there's some interesting things that you will find as you're going through a site that's been around a little bit. And this site in particular was around about 2 years and 10 months, I believe it was. So you had some data, you had some things to build off of. But if you're interested in looking over our shoulder or being a fly on the wall, well, you'll want to join us inside of Brand Creators Academy. And currently, the way that you would do that is you have to go to the website that we have a little survey there for you to fill out. It just gives us a little detail about you and where you're at. And then from there, we'll send you a private invite. It is by private invite only. But if you're interested, as of right now, to get access to our Niche Properties Insiders, the things that we're going to be doing here every single month, on top of all of the training that we offer, the support, our live calls, all of that stuff, you're going to want to jump over there and go ahead and fill out that survey and then get on that list so we can send you out a private invite. And that you can find at brandcreators.com/BCA. Again, that's brandcreators.com/BCA, and you'll get all the details over there. All right. So let's kind of dig in. All right. When we are looking at a niche, we are normally looking at or generally looking at something very, very specific. Okay. So the example I like to use a lot of times is like bass fishing, right? So bass fishing is very, very niche. It's niche down to just bass fishing. And if you were to create a site on bass fishing, you're kind of limited on what you can talk about. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's not good. What I like to do, even if I wasn't going to go as broad as we're talking here today, which I'll share with you, what that looks like. But I always do want to allow myself room to go a little bit wider. Okay, so if I was to go into bass fishing, I wouldn't go and title my brand or my name something bass fishing. It would be something fishing. Okay, that allows me to go into all of those other sub-markets in the fishing niche. Okay, now this site that we were looking at was like this here. Now, I'm not going to reveal the niche because, again, we do this inside of the academy. We like to keep that part private. But I'll give you a really good example of kind of how this was. So imagine that you started a website and you wanted to talk all about sports and outdoors. So sports and outdoors, that's huge. It's a big, broad niche. So we could talk about a whole bunch of different things. But let's say we said, all right, we want to talk about fishing. We want to talk about hunting. We want to talk about hiking, and we want to talk about camping. Okay, maybe those are the 4 areas that I am going to start to explore. And I can randomly put something out there about fishing. It could be about bass fishing. It could be about fly fishing. It could be about anything. Okay. If I wanted to then do an article or a piece of content on hunting, I could talk about bow hunting and deer hunting, big game, like all of that stuff, right? Or maybe I wanted to then do an article on hiking. Well, I could do it on, hiking in the woods. I could do it for hiking in different parks, things like that. Or maybe I wanted to do an article on camping, maybe some tent camping, maybe camping in the mountains. Okay. So you see where I'm going? Like if I had a site and it was all about sports and outdoors, that does allow me to go wide, really wide, but how far is too wide? Like how far? I don't know if there's really an answer to that, because the site that we were breaking down, it was like that. It was like this here, sports and outdoors. And then it was like fishing and hunting and hiking and camping. Maybe you even throw in there, something else like, let's see here, and something else in sports and outdoors. Maybe it was just a sport in general. Maybe it was volleyball, and you threw that in there too. Now, in this case, if I was going to do something in sports and outdoors, I would lean towards something around outdoors. I think the sports part of it is like, well, hunting could be technically a sport, fishing could be a sport, things like that, right? But outdoors covers the hiking and the camping. So this is how it would look if we were to do this. You could start it just like that, sports and outdoors, come up with a name, and then from there, immediately start talking about fishing, hunting, hiking, camping, and whatever else you want to talk about. And just randomly go out there, do some keyword research in these certain areas, and then just start, taking the buckshot approach, kind of like the hunting thing, and just shooting it out there and seeing what happens. And that's exactly what this site did. And this site's doing very well, okay? But then what we want to do, and this is what we did through this little 90-day blueprint, is we identified a few different themes, a few different sub-niches that we felt you could build a lot of content. You can go really, really deep, okay? So an example of this is, let's say that we just took fishing and we said, all right, yes, we've done some articles on hunting and hiking and camping and all of that stuff, but let's say that we just wanted to go into fishing. We are going to now only focus on the fishing side, even though the name of our site might encompass something outdoors, sports and outdoors, like something like that. So I could do articles on bass fishing, and then I would probably do 10 to 15 articles there, maybe another 10 or 15 in fly fishing. Maybe I'm going to do beach fishing. Maybe I'm going to do deep sea fishing, or maybe I'm just going to go all in on bass fishing for a while, or maybe fly fishing, whichever one. I'm going to pick one. But then we can go super, super niche. Okay. And if you already have a site that's kind of been like this is exactly what you want to do. You want to look through your data and see what content has been doing well. Now, the only side of this that it might not help you in doing it this way, if we go this broad, is relevancy. And we did find this when we were looking at sites that were their competition. It was kind of all over the place. So it was showing us also that Google wasn't really sure what the site's about. It's about a little bit of everything. So that can come back to hurt you. That's why I would definitely encourage you or anyone to basically make sure that you're filling out these categories, right? And in this case, it's fishing, hunting, hiking, and camping, and so on. So for example, for hunting, let's say we pick that one, we could do bow hunting, gun hunting, deer hunting, big game, anything else that has to do with hunting. There's even, I think I was looking into that at one point. I was like hunting, four-wheeler hunting or something, or ATV hunting or something. It's where you go hunting with your ATV. It's a whole thing. Then there's hiking. We got the woods, like I said. There could be parks, certain parks. There's rock climbing. There's all different kinds of hiking. And then there's camping. We've got RV camping. We've got tenting. We've got parks, and various other aspects of camping, right? So we can just pick one of these and then go really deep. And what you almost want to imagine is that you have a lot of these little micro niches inside of your niche property. Okay, so there's more categories or more areas for you to explore. And as you publish this content, the cool thing is that you start to see what your site is ranking easier for. And then you might want to use that as an indicator of what you should be focusing on. And so what we basically did is we said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and build out this content plan and in this whole blueprint, really. And the very first thing that we looked at was this right here. What is a sub niche that we should be going really deep in? And we found 2 or 3 of them immediately just by looking at the data. Then what we're going to do is do a 30 to a 45 piece content blitz. Okay, where we're basically going to create 30 to 45 pieces of content that's going to really go deep in this sub niche and then just really, really go hard there. The next thing that we were going to do is take the existing content, looking at it and saying, okay, what of this content, what content here is ranking within, I would say like the first 2 pages, like let's say page 2. Let's say they're ranking on page 2 and we found a bunch of these, but all we needed to do is a little bit of optimization work to get it to page 1. We can immediately have a lift in traffic. All right. So that's another thing that we can do from this, looking at this blueprint. Now, with that being said, because the content was kind of all over the place, this is where I'd be looking at it not so much as like, okay, is this going to be relevant to what I'm publishing now? Rather than what is something here that's like within striking distance that I can just tweak? And it can be anything. Okay. So again, this is something we covered as we went through our Niche Properties Insider. If you would like to get access to that or access to any of those upcoming ones, you definitely want to be part of our Brand Creators Academy, brandcreators.com/BCA. We're doing one of these per month. The last one we did was about 2 hours. We're also doing a guide that goes with it that kind of covers everything we discussed, but then also turns it into a 90-day blueprint so you can kind of see all of these different aspects. So if you're interested, make sure that you check that out. So to wrap this up, let's talk about a name, right? Like a lot of people get hung up on the name. What would you pick for a name that was going to talk about sports and outdoors? And it wasn't just going to be fishing or hunting or, hiking, any of those things. What could we do that will allow us the freedom to go broader if we wanted to? Okay. And I came up with a few here. All right. So experienceoutdoors.com. It's probably taken, but it's just, you get the idea, right? Experienceoutdoors.com. Another one I did was outdoorliving.com. Again, I know that's probably taken, but you get the idea. Something with outdoor living, could be outdoor fun, something, you get the idea. The one that is a real site that I found was called outdoorlife.com. I think it gets like a couple million visits a month. Pretty crazy. But yeah, so Outdoor Life. And they talk about primarily, they're talking about fishing, hunting, and I think that was about it. So they only talk about the 2, but they have a lot of room if they wanted to. Not that they have to. They're getting like 2 million visits a month. But they could go broader, right? Because Outdoor Life, they could do camping, hiking, and things like that. And I didn't go through their site. They might have published some stuff on that. But primarily, I think they're like fishing and hunting. So that's just an example for you of like what it would look like if you were going into a broad niche. This is the other big takeaway and the big kind of aha that I had was people that are struggling with choosing a niche might be trying to go too niche. Okay, meaning you're trying to find that one little micro niche that you think is going to be the home run. Maybe pull out of that a little bit and see where that micro niche comes from. And maybe you start there. That allows you the freedom to go a little bit left and right so you don't have to go so deep at first and you can sample. and you can sample different things. And this just becomes easier for you because then it's not like you have to pick like the niche. Like you don't have to pick bass fishing. It could be like we did here today. It could be something outdoors that you can explore different things, right? And this will allow you to get some momentum and then identify the niche, okay? So it does allow you to get started faster, to not overthink it, and to know that as long as it's a little bit broad, I still think it needs to be within theme, right? Like if you're talking about bass fishing, you don't want it to be on a knitting site, right? So you need to be careful there, or a crafting site. Now, if you were doing knitting and you had crafting or something like that, that might be able to go back and forth. But in this case that we're talking about, I'd like to keep it where it's broad enough for me to be able to go left or right and then go really deep. All right. So hopefully this has helped you. This is our Friday jam session. So this way here, you can get, you can get this question answered. And if you do have any questions of your own, you can always drop them in the comments if you're watching this on the Facebook live or on the recording. Or if you're listening to this on the podcast, you can always email me, scott@brandcreators.com. Drop your question there, and I might answer it here on one of these upcoming Friday jam sessions. All right, guys. So have an awesome, amazing weekend. If you're listening to this when it airs on a Friday, and if you're listening to this any other time of the week, have a great week. And I will see you right back here on the podcast. Take care, take action, and I'll talk to you soon.